The idea of this afternoon, this is all about, well, easily compare and contrast compliance reports. So you probably already know we combine sort of best practice configuration policies such as CIS, system hardening template. We've talked previously about sort of automated remediation against those, and that still applies today. The idea today is that we're going to look at how those built-in reports can be used over time to improve and maintain security and compliance, and even across larger estates. And we're going to go into a bit more depth in this in the session, but by being able to take the image of what one device or server looks like, how compliant is it against the standard, and how does it compare with other machines within the estate? Okay, so continuous compliance, lots and lots of vendors talk about continuous compliance. Most of them don't do it and don't mean it. In fact, most of our customers or organizations we're getting to work with often don't consider that's an achievable goal. For a lot of people, it's we push on with compliance when the audit is due. Every 12 months we really major on this, or when we first introduce a new product like Change Tracker, and that's kind of all fine. But in actual fact, the whole point of being compliant is that, or in compliance, is that if you're not, that means that in our terms, certainly there's vulnerabilities still in existence within your estate, and why would you want to knowingly remain in a state where your attack surface is greater than it should be? You're more vulnerable or prone to attack than you might otherwise be. Sort of, what's the point of doing this if we're not going to do it properly? But it's surprising that a lot of people, because it's not that easy to sort of harden or remediate settings on devices, generally the realist comes into play and says, well, look, we're going to need a few weeks, a few months to get everything straightened out. So there's an actual tendency to think, well, it's going to take time to do this, so it's sort of okay to take that time. But really, it's the every second counts in terms of making sure that we're as secure as possible. So genuinely, the goal and the sort of minimum standard really should be that we're in compliance, on a 24/7 basis. The other thing is kind of the same area, really. If we, we often have this when we first introduce a Change Tracker solution, we'll run something like a CIS benchmark report against a device, and it rarely checks out to be a sort of 100% score. There's always some failures and some areas that can be improved on in terms of the vulnerabilities that exist there. And there's a bit of confusion sometimes, because whilst it's okay to have failures where they make sense. So, for example, if you've got a server that needs FTP services, or you've elected not to use the built-in Windows firewall because you're using something else, that's fine. But you shouldn't just leave that as a failure within your report. The whole idea of running a compliance assessment is that you decide on what your harden build standard needs to be and must be, and if you've decided that's what it has to be, then you should be making sure at every step that you're aligned to that. And I'll show you a couple of things that allow you to work within that. Obviously, you can exclude rules and exclude tests, and we'll always modify reports for your estate, but there's some other things you can bring into play to make sure that you are hitting the right mark each time. Okay, so why does it matter? Well, just past Thanksgiving, of course, it's sort of a few years on from when Target was the big news. They're sort of living proof, a great example of why sort of time is of the essence when you're dealing with either with a breach. So if you are breached, then you need to know about it as soon as humanly possible. And remember, with Target, all of their damage was done. They were only they reckon they were only breached for 2.5 weeks. It was at Thanksgiving. It was a very wide scale breach, but the damage that was caused, even within a very short space of time like that, was massive, and enough to sort of besmirch the name of one of the sort of most respected retailers in the market. So it doesn't take long. And similarly, if you consider sort of when do cyber attacks happen, You know, is it at the weekend? Is it out of hours? In actual fact, it's any time. This is a global business. It's a global enterprise to try and find systems that are vulnerable to attack and ways in. And really, you know, if the cyber attackers are trying to breach our systems, you know, every second of every day, then it stands to reason that we should be making sure we're secure continuously, you know, every single second of every day. So this concept of continuous compliance and real-time breach detection is just an aspiration and not something that's actually achievable. Is completely wrong. However, you know, just for background, and when we talk about, or if you read some of the security standards, things like the NIST 853 PCI standard, they set the bar pretty low. I think PCI is, you know, to run file integrity checks once a week, and the general practice is, you know, run a vulnerability scan once a month, you know, scan and patch every 30 days. For a lot of, you know, going back to PCI again, for a lot of merchants out there, it's run a scan every 6 months, every 12 months, depending on the level of merchant. Now, the reason why that sort of level of expectation is set isn't because that's the right way to keep your systems secure, and that's actually what the PCI Standards Council want you to adopt. It's purely a sort of compromise between the sort of level of technology that's generally available. So, you know, most of us know about the sort of snapshot scanners, things like Nessus, Qualys. Those things, because they work on a sort of snapshot, sort of external interrogation basis, they're pretty intensive in terms of the host resources. You know, they're logging in, they're running scripts and commands, and you know, they take, you know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes to complete a full assessment of the host. So it's recognised that that's not a particularly business-friendly process, and it's just a compromise between making this a sort of practical operation that can be run as frequently as you can tolerate, really. So it's even though the standard says, well, do it once a week, that isn't the best way to run this. You know, you do want this second by second, and of course that's where we innovate, and that's what we do, and that's really where the sort of NNT brand is being taken notice of, because we can actually deliver on the promise of continuous, you know, non-stop, real-time compliance and file integrity monitoring checks. Of course, we do a lot of other things as well. So we keep watch on all aspects of compliance in terms of, you know, software that's installed, services running, ports that are open on device, regardless of the sort of standard that you're subject to. We can help with that, and it's all backed by these CIS benchmark reports, which provide us the blueprint, you know, the guidance for making sure that systems are as hack-proof and secure as possible. So that's all clear. What we're going to do is, in the spirit of the educational moment, is jump over to my live demo, wherever that's gone. That's here, so let's pull that back. Okay, so I've got my my system set up to just monitor a couple of devices that I put in this Windows 10 group. I've done just 2 devices because that's going to make it clearer and easier. But the beauty of this is that it's massively scalable. You know, we can get up to huge estates, and using these sort of filters and controls. Okay, you might have 10,000 devices that are being monitored in here, but if you're only responsible for firewalls, we can filter that, mask off the stuff you don't need to see, and make it as manageable. So let's go to the compliance screen. This is something where we've been doing a lot of work recently. If I just jump to the device page before I get into that, what you'll see, so this is classic, I'm just recapping this really for anyone who doesn't use the product today, but classic change tracker setup, because those devices are in this Windows 10 group. So we've got our inventory here. I'm actually remote. That's why that's showing in grey, because I'm connected to this system, but operating remotely. By virtue of the fact that these devices have been registered into this group, they get monitored using a CIS-based Windows 10 monitoring template. And what we're looking at today is the fact that we're running these scheduled CIS benchmark reports. We're a CIS certified vendor. That means we're tested for our accuracy and ability to properly execute and reveal alignment to the CIS benchmark in terms of config settings. This is important. I'll just touch on this because somebody who works for us the other day said that they didn't know about this little feature here. So if we run a report and we find that we're failing to meet the full scope of the CIS benchmark, what we do, we'd put in place a remediation program, and that may take a few days, a week, as little time as possible, as we've already covered. But to sort of give the reassurance to the group that we're on top of this, and also to give ourselves a bit of encouragement that we're gradually improving compliance over time, what we could do is we can dial in that pass mark to a lower than 100%. What that means is that when we run reports and we get a score back, provided we're above the lower bar that we've set, we'll still get a green tick, a green thumbs up, and it's a more encouraging way of showing that we're sort of in control. We know that we're not at 100% or where we want to be, but we are where we expect to be for this particular point in time. Here's where we schedule the reports to be run and dial that in. Say by default we set that to weekly, which is comfortably beating the sort of traditional scanning regime of doing this once a month. Okay, so back to the compliance page where I've been running these earlier on. See here, so this is what I mean by the little green thumb. Because that bar, as you saw, was set to 100%, we only get the thumbs up when we hit 100%, and we give a little spark line here to show the overall compliance and how that's progressing on average over the period. Now, what you see is there's some extra buttons and some extra options on here, and just quickly explain what they do. So first thing, if I click, I can show the report directly, and you can see here I've got lots of nice green check marks showing me that the report was expecting the setting to be 14. That's exactly what we got. Not so good on page 2. If I come here, security policy, group policy settings on here, and a setting here to secure access and privilege over the server. What's cool here is that because we've got a failure, we then go into more depth. We show what the security policy is set to. In fact, we give the full amount of the full settings we recover there, and the actual setting should be administrators only for this particular setup. What's nice though is that we show the remediation setting for that. As I say, you can shortcut this. You can get a group policy, a pre-built group policy template from us that you can import into your domain controller, and you can fire that out. But you've got the ability to edit that before you get into it. And if you're interested in vulnerabilities and the rationale behind them, we'll also give the full sort of narrative description of just how this has come about, how the exploit works in practice, and that's pretty useful, sort of improving your own knowledge about security and vulnerabilities. Okay, so back to the compliance page. So you saw there, first thing is that I've dropped. So between then and now, my security has lessened. So let's take a look at what the difference is. You see there, as I highlight 2 reports, I get the option to compare. And I then get this neat comparer pops up, and it tells me exactly what the difference is between those 2 reports. Now, because I went from 100% to a lower score, it was pretty easy because everything was passing before, and now I've got 2 things that are failing. It gets a bit more powerful when I show, for example, between here and here. So what were the differences on those 2 reports? So if I take this guy and open here, you're going to get a lot more differences because earlier on, there were more weaknesses in it. And so you see here things that were corrected later on get green checks where they were failing previously, but also it can go the other way, so I can lessen security on the machine. And again, I get the shortcut through to that remediation advice here. So really great for showing how a particular machine is evolving or drifting in terms of its compliance. The other thing I can do as well is if I come here, I can also show the bigger differences between 2 different machines. Now that gives me an extra dimension in that if I have one machine which is working and one that isn't, you can see here that my this particular machine, which is on the right-hand side, that's sort of in its default set. There's no actual settings for a lot of these parameters that we're tracking on there. So again, I'd need to get into the remediation of that machine, but it allows me to really easily take what are pretty big reports. You know, sometimes they're 200-300 rules, and rather than sift through and try and do my own analysis, I can get some on-screen comparisons. The final thing that I'll show is that we're hearing from some of our customers that auditors want to not just see the reports on screen. They don't want to take our word for it that these things run automatically. What they want to do is to be able to export the full library of report on demand, and you know, I can do that just with a few clicks. Now, the reason you'll notice down here, it's popped up this little green message here. We operate some scheduled tasks now. So if you request a large number of reports, you know, hundreds, thousands, that's clearly going to take a little bit longer to produce those, zip those up and deliver them. So depending on the machine resource and so on. So we actually do it as a scheduled task in the machine. What happens is, as it prompts you, go to the dashboard. Because I've only requested 2 reports in this particular output, they're already there and waiting for me. So you can see that I've just output those and just clicked to download those. But if it was a heavier load, you know, thousands of reports, that might take, you know, a few minutes, a couple of hours if you've got a really slow machine. So that just manages the tasks and makes sure that everything is taken care of. And it means you've got a really scalable system that you can depend on. Okay, so that's probably done the main topic that I wanted to cover in the initial session. Any questions on this? You can set those through the chat setting of the WebEx, or just contact us after the event. Important thing to know, if you're an existing Change Tracker user and you're thinking, why haven't I got those buttons and why doesn't my one do that? Well, it's because I'm on 701.45. If you're not, get yourself upgraded. It's available on the website today. Just log in using your members account, download it, and get yourself updated, because this version is markedly improved over previous ones. So really useful. Okay, great. Well, the next, the final thing I'll do is I just wanted to pull up this. We're going to talk about threat intelligence as well, just because we've got the time to do so. So let me just bring in this, and I'll share that out as well. Okay, all right. So this is, you know, it's billed as a sneak preview, and it's not the full launch. We're holding this back until the new year. You know, we're all going to have lots of fun over the holiday period, Christmas and New Year. So things get a little bit drab and dreary come January. So we're going to rectify that by giving you a smash release of Change Tracker with integrated threat intelligence, so we can all hit 2017 and have something to look forward to and be excited. So where this stems from is that, I mean, particularly if anyone's used Tripwire in the past, you know, you get this horrendous daily FIM changes report. Someone who's the unlucky person in the office, they get their email address put in to receive this thing, and you know, sometimes it's, if you're lucky, hundreds, usually it's thousands, and you go through all the changes. You've got to assess what they are, try and work out whether they're good, bad changes, things you want, things you don't want, and you know, it's a bit of a tiresome task. Now, you know, reality is that because Change Tracker Gen 7 is so sensitive, so accurate, you know, if there's changes on the machine that you're monitoring, it's going to record them and it's going to alert them to you. And of course, we've got exclusions. If it's simply things we don't want to know about, let's exclude them. We've also got this fantastic intelligent plan change function with Gen 7. So review the changes once on one machine only, and if they're the same changes, so if it's you know, Windows patches that have been rolled out to all your machines, well, the intelligent plan change will take care of that. It'll review, it'll go out hunting down instances of the same changes, where there's a match, it'll automatically remediate, automatically acknowledge those if you've already given it the go-ahead to do so. So you'll take a big bite out of these changes using the simple function in Gen 7. However, what do you do about the ones that fall between the cracks? Now, what we're doing, we're looking, we sort of acknowledge everyone's got antivirus and it's doing its own job. We're also acknowledging that antivirus is limited. We all know that. We all know that antivirus is signature-based. If there's malware which has already been seen and isolated, then there's a signature for it. The AV will spot that bad file, that malicious content, and it'll quarantine it. And that still works great, but it has its limitations. So what we're looking to introduce is complementary technologies, so whitelisting. Now this is super ambitious approach because the idea of the whitelist is that we take all known good files. So, Microsoft 2012 R2, all the files that come on the DVD, the files that get installed on a vanilla install of Oracle Linux, all of the file signatures that come in the Windows updates that are released every single month and most days in the week. We want to catalog those, build a huge inventory of all of those files that we know are good, trusted, and non-malicious. Okay, so what you end up with is if you take your typical run of files, so let's take a look at the NNT Fast Cloud. So we call it Fast Cloud because it's very fast to make these assessments for you, but it's an acronym. It stands for File Approved Safe Technology. And the idea is that with this huge inventory of known good files, as changes come into the Gen 7 system, okay, so if they're known malicious, if they're known to the AV, that's going to quarantine them, and they're taken care of. So the everyday, the sort of malware that's washing around, it's been around for a few years, that gets taken care of by the AV. What's left over, we detect that, and we run it through either our cloud or our on-premises deployment of this whitelist repository. The intelligence in there is taken from a variety of feeds. Predominantly, it's the Kaspersky whitelist. We're working with Kaspersky Labs, but other vendors contribute to the capability as well. And what it means is that as files are detected, okay, they run through a number of things. So if they're already part of an intelligent plan change, so effectively if they've been whitelisted by you locally, then they're approved, they move on, they're acknowledged. Similarly, if you set the system up this way, a file can be automatically assessed against the NNT Fast Cloud. So is it known good? Okay, that takes a big bite out of the known patches, the regular updates that we know about. And finally, what you're left with is hopefully a non-existent, but what will be a small pool left in the middle. So these will be files that aren't blacklisted. They're not known malicious. They're not known to the AV. They're also not known as good. They're not whitelisted. So what they will be is either patches that are so new they've yet to appear on the whitelist. Quite often there'll be bespoke applications, so in-house developed pieces of software that you're deploying, and they're unique to you. So they don't make it onto any of these manufacturers' whitelist. So they're things that are known to you, you'll be able to recognize them and cover them. And also, finally in that pool, there will be these nasty zero-day malware, brand new strains of malicious files that have never been seen before. And you've just got lucky or unlucky, you're the recipient of one of these new ransomware strains that your AV is blind to. The whitelist obviously doesn't know about it because it clearly won't be a whitelisted file. So you will be left with those things. And, but unlike Target, you'll know that you've been breached. You'll know immediately. And because we're decluttering your FIM changes, you're not getting this massive daily FIM changes report. You're just getting a handful of potentially suspicious files that you need to review. And if you don't know what they are, back them out straight away and send them off to your either your sandbox or your AV vendor to get them checked out, because in a secure environment, the type of thing that we're monitoring, you're pretty unlikely to get anything, any sort of malware, but that's exactly why you implement system integrity monitoring for that reason. So sit tight. It'll be here sooner than you know it. We'll be making a lot of noise about this when we get into the new year and we launch this, and it's going to revolutionise the way that people do system integrity monitoring and compliance. They're going to make it really easy but more effective than it's ever been before. Okay, so good. Hope that covered it. We've just come up to about half hour. I've just got a couple of questions from the floor here. So someone's asking about how much this costs. Is it included? Well, it is. Unfortunately, it is going to be a cost option. You know, you can imagine there's a lot of infrastructure and resource that goes into maintaining something like a threat intelligence cloud. It's got to be hosted and scalable and secure in its own right. So, but to give you a rough idea, it's going to be roughly in line with the sort of maintenance payments you already make. So if you're a big user of NNT software, you've probably got a bigger maintenance fee, and the threat intelligence will be there or thereabouts, on a par with that. Probably not as much as your maintenance. If you've got a smaller deployment, then it's probably going to be about the same sort of fee as you pay for maintenance, but great value for money when you see what it can do. Someone else is asking here about, which I think I covered earlier anyway, how do they get the compliance comparer screen? Well, that's comes in 70145, so get that latest build, or just contact your account manager or your partner or NNT support, and we'll help you out with either the sort of RPM files or the EXE if you're a Windows guy. So great. Well, hopefully that's that's covered it. It's an educational moment. Moment means half an hour, and that's what we've covered. We'll publish this on the website anyway, so if you had to break off or you joined late, no problem, because we'll have it covered. But otherwise, have a great afternoon. Happy holidays if it's not too early to say that, and speak to you all soon. Thanks very much.